beneficent and the most merciful. And I am Dr. Junaid Ghaffar, working as a consultant in Sialkot Medical College. I am very thankful to Dr. Mudassir Hussain, Dr. Asim Beg, and whole of the Department of Khorasan Medical College and Sardar Begum for arranging this beautiful workshop. And why I welcome all the participants to the third module of this pediatric ventilation. And in this third module, we will discuss the practical demonstration of Circuit vent and different parameters that are present in the ventilator and their settings. And in the second part, we will discuss the step of intubation and the endotracheal tube selection in pediatric patients. So before the start of my video presentation, we will discuss a scenario that is based on the first and second module. A 3 kg term newborn on third day of life is on ventilator. It is a diagnosed case of congenital pneumonia. Her ABGs is showing pH of 7.1, PCO2 of 65, and BiCARB of 35. So kindly interpret the ABGs as discussed by Dr. Sunina in the second module. What will be the ideal mode of ventilation and what will be the ideal setting to ventilate this baby who is a diagnosed case of congenital pneumonia, and what will be the expected tidal volume and minute ventilation of this baby.
Sir, should I answer?
डॉक्टर साहब अगर कोई जूनियर है तो उसे स्टार्ट करें. सबसे पहले कोई जूनियर, सबसे जूनियर कौन है यहाँ पे, उसके बाद फिर जो है ना वो
जूनियर. डॉक्टर हुदा
जी अपना माइक अनम्यूट करें. अपना माइक अनम्यूट करें और आंसर करें काइंडली.
If Dr. Huda is unwilling, then Dr. Yasir and Dr. Saira.
आप ही आंसर कर दें.
नहीं कर दूं सर. First of all, looking at the ABG's interpretation, the pH is 7.1. It is obviously an acidotic pH. Then looking at the parameters, regarding respiratory component, PCO2 is 65. Hall above the normal range, that is 35 to 45. So CO2 can cause this hypercarbia, can cause acidosis. Second component is BiCARB. Its normal range is 20 to 28, and here it is 35. It means it is above the normal limit. It cannot cause the acidosis. So obviously here it is a respiratory acidosis. Then we would check for the other component, that is what the respiratory system is doing the compensation. That is for every 10 millimeter of mercury rise in CO2, the BiCARB should have risen by 1 milliequivalent. So here BiCARB 20 millimeter of mercury ज़्यादा है CO2 और BiCARB उसके मुकाबले में बहुत ज़्यादा है. तो it means कि मेटाबॉलिक सिस्टम ने कंपनसेशन की है और अबव जो है ना वो उस तरह से गया है. तो हमारे पास रेस्पिरेटरी एसिडोसिस है जिसके लिए हमें इसको वेंटिलेट करना है.
So the second question is, what is ideal mode of ventilation and what is the ideal setting for the ventilation of this baby?
Okay. In a newborn, the most favored or ideal mode of ventilation usually is pressure controlled, synchronized intermittent ventilation. And the settings here would be regarding all the parameters, peak inspiratory pressure. This can be from 18 to 24. Peak, PEEP, पॉजिटिव एंड एक्सपायरेटरी प्रेशर 4 to 10. यहाँ पे हम इसको मिनिमम रखेंगे क्योंकि पीप अगर हमारी ज्यादा होगी तो वो और CO2 रिटेन कराएगी, तो 4 हम यहाँ पे रखेंगे. रेस्पिरेटरी रेट हम परमिसिबल मैक्सिमम हम 60 रेस्पिरेटरी रेट इस पे यहाँ पे रखेंगे क्योंकि हमारा रेस्पिरेटरी रेट जो है ना ये CO2 को वॉश आउट करेगा. और ऑक्सीजन अगर हमारी FiO2 ऑलरेडी SpO2 मेंटेड है तो हमें बहुत ज्यादा देने की जरूरत भी नहीं भी है, हम 40-50% भी रख सकते हैं. और अगर हमारी सैचुरेशन मेंटेन नहीं हो रही तो हम ज्यादा भी जा सकते हैं, 60-70% भी जा सकते
हैं. Then third question, what will be the expected tidal volume and minute ventilation of this baby?
Ventilation as is a newborn, it should be at least 250 to 500 milliliter per minute. And tidal volume, exactly.
200 to 300 ml per kg per minute. Okay. And tidal volume,
Sir, वो आप बता दें.
6 to 10 ml per kg.
10 ml. A to.
So, during the ventilation of this baby, the chest of the child stop moving. So, how can you assess the baby now? Any other participant who can answer this question? Any other?
अच्छा, इसमें हम फिर वो ईटीटी ट्यूब फर्स्ट चेक करेंगे, उसकी ब्लॉकेज वगैरह, एयर एंट्री बायलेटरल इक्वल है, पेटेंट है, ये सारे पैरामीटर्स इसमें चेक करेंगे.
ठीक है. What are the expected possibilities in this case scenario?
मे बी ईटीटी पे म्यूकस प्लग की वजह से ब्लॉक हो, या हमारा पीप कम हो, टाइडल वॉल्यूम कम हो, उसको हम एनहेंस कर सकते हैं.
So you will remember a mnemonic DOB: displacement, obstruction, pneumothorax, and extubation.
जी.
What is the ideal ETT size and depth of insertion of ETT in a 2 kg unit? So we will discuss this in the second part of this module. Now we will start a video in which I will practically demonstrate the circuit of the ventilator, different parameters and alarms that are present in the ventilator, and its setting. So you can see that this is a Drager C300 ventilator. This is the main screen of this ventilator, and below it is the body. And you can see this is a circuit, and this is end-tidal CO2 monitor. This circuit has two limbs. One is inspiratory limb. This inspiratory limb is attached to an humidifier, which is coming from an inspiratory port. So this is an expiratory port, and it is attached to the expiratory limb. So we will attach this to through endotracheal tube to the baby, and when the child is on ventilator, each breath is delivered through the inspiratory limb to the baby, and expiration is passed out to the expiratory limb and is wasted. This is the basic circuit, and now we will move to the main screen of the ventilator. So you can see on the screen that on the right upper side in yellow color, this is written standby, and there are 5 parameters that are written below this standby. First of all, before the start of ventilation, you have to choose whether you are going to perform an invasive ventilation or non-invasive ventilation. Invasive ventilation is done to the tube, so you will choose the parameter of tube from this application mode. If it is non-invasive ventilation, you can choose the option of non-invasive ventilation. Then a second thing that is important to select is tube type, whether this is endotracheal tube or tracheostomy tube. Usually we ventilate the neonate and infant and children with endotracheal tube. And in rare conditions, we can also pass tracheostomy tube to ventilate a baby. The third important thing is to select the tube size. So we will click on this option, and from the knob on the left side of the ventilator, we can adjust the size of the tube. So another important option is before the start of ventilation is to check the circuit as well as check the system before the start of the ventilation. So we will move to the option of circuit check. And in this option, you can see that this is written breathing circuit check. When we press this start button, the circuit will automatically start to check the proper working of the circuit. That will be so the result of this breathing circuit check can be seen in the check result. So if there is any problem in the flow or in resistance of expiratory or inspiratory limb, this can be shown in the breathing circuit check. So after doing circuit test and selecting tube size, we will move to the main screen, that is start/standby mode. And from there we will select the weight of the child. The next option is ventilation or oxygen therapy. We will choose ventilation, and then we will move toward the ventilatory settings. On this ventilator,
मेरे को नहीं चल रहे बाहर कुछ खा पी लेंदे ना वही बैठे
you can see. Okay. So in these ventilatory settings, you can see the different mode of ventilation. The first mode is volume control, usage control. The second you can see is pressure control biter. The third is volume control, synchronized intermittent mandatory ventilation. The fourth one is pressure support, CPAP. Fifth one is pressure control, synchronized intermittent mandatory ventilation, and there are some other ones. In pediatrics, we commonly use two modes. One is pressure control, synchronized intermittent mandatory ventilation. That is usually given in neonates and infants, and volume control, synchronized intermittent mandatory ventilation. That is given in the child that are greater than 1 year. The other mode can also be used. Like the CPAP mode, which is sometimes the waning mode is also can be used. The basic of pressure control SIME is explained by the Dr. Mudassir in the first module. However, we will just see how we adjust the setting on this pressure control SIME mode. The first option you can see here is FiO2. So the initial FiO2 to start with is 60%. Although we can increase the FiO2 to the 100%, but the best is to start at 60% and then adjust the FiO2 according to the clinical scenario. The other option is So the second option is peak inspiratory pressure. The peak inspiratory pressure usually in term unit is from 18 to 20, and we can click on this and then adjust the peak, this knob. And the other is positive inspiratory pressure that usually vary from 4 to 6, and we can also change this from this knob. The other option is inspiratory time. The inspiratory time usually vary from 0.3 to 0.6 seconds. And you can see when we adjust the rate as per rate of 40 per minute, and the inspiratory time is 0.4. So the IE ratio that is calculated is 1 ratio 2.7. And if we increase the inspiratory time, then the inspiration to expiration ratio is 1 ratio 2. And if we keep on increasing inspiratory time, then the expiration ratio become 1 ratio 1. And if we increase the inspiratory time above a limit, then we can reverse this ratio. But the ideal inspiratory time to ventilate a child is from 0.3 to 0.6 seconds. Let's see the option of slope. Slope is basically the flow of the air, and this is usually from 0.04 to 0.06 seconds. So these are the basic setting of pressure control synchronized intermittent mandatory ventilation, on which we will put the child on the ventilator. However, these settings varies depend upon the indication for the ventilation, whether the child is indicated because of some respiratory pathology, because of some neuromuscular pathology, or because of CNS pathology. These settings can vary. The additional setting in this mode is the volume guarantee option. That in pressure control SIMV, we can also set a targeted tidal volume. That is, if we think that we are ventilating a 4 kg baby, and the expected tidal volume of this baby is 8 ml per kg, and the tidal volume of this child should be between 30 to 35, and we will adjust the tidal volume to 35. The option of volume guarantee. So you can see that the vent will now guarantee that the tidal volume of 35 will be delivered to the baby on the following setting. So we change pressure control SIMV mode to the pressure control SIMV with volume guarantee. Second mode that is commonly used in the child below 1 year of age is volume control ventilation. So in volume control SIMV, we will first of all adjust the FiO2, then we will adjust the tidal volume, then the time, then we will set the flow, then respiratory rate, then P, then slope, and then pressure score. Adjusting this ventilator setting, you can see the setting that we have adjusted for our baby is written here. That we are going to ventilate a child on a pressure control SIMV mode, and the FiO2 going to level is 60%, and the respiratory rate of child is 40 with inspiratory time of 0.4 seconds, and the tidal volume delivering to the baby will be 35 ml, and P will be 4. So we will push the start button and then click on this knob, and the ventilation will start to begin. volume of 35, wetting time of 0.4, peak of 4, and slope of 0.06. So upon this setting, when the baby will be ventilated, we will see a pressure graph. This pressure graph will show the cycle between peak inspiratory pressure and it will also show the volume cycle of this ventilation. And on this side, we can see the percentage of FiO2 that is going to deliver to the baby, and then the minute ventilation. The minute ventilation is the product of tidal volume and the respiratory rate. And we can see from here what will be the respiratory rate of the child, how much tidal volume the vent is given to the baby, and what will be the tidal volume. The left side of the screen, you can see the multiple options. The first option is of alarm. You can see that this red alarm is beeping, and you can see that there is no oxygen supply and the vent is disconnected. So whenever there is a problem, the vent will start beeping and giving the alarm. So alarm have all the parameter and setting that is available in the ventilator, and the alarm value are adjusted according to our requirement to the upper limit as well as lower limit. The this ventilator is setting and ventilator alarm setting, the alarm will start to beep. For example, we have said that the maximum respiratory rate of a child would be 80 per minute. So we will click on this per minute. And if the respiratory rate will go above 80 per minute, the vent will start beeping in red. So in this case, we will adjust the values of the alarms according to our need and the setting for the ventilation. The second option is view. There are different views in which you will see the pressure curve as well as the volume curve of the ventilation. And on the third, this is the ventilation setting that we have already discussed. On fourth, this is sensor parameter. On fifth, this is system setup, and on the last is trend and data. We can see the different trends and data from here. So in these trends, we will see the setting. These are the settings that we have adjusted in the ventilator for the ventilator to deliver to the baby. And value 1 and value 2 are the parameters that vent is delivering to the baby. For example, the peak inspiratory pressure that will be delivered to the baby will be shown here. FiO2 and IE ratio. All the parameters that is delivering to the baby in the current situation will be shown here. And the value 2, we can see what will be the minute ventilation of the child, what will be the end tidal CO2, and what will be the dynamic implies that will be shown here. So these are the basic part of the ventilator, setting in the ventilator, and different mode of ventilator, and we can adjust these mode and settings according to our scenario, clinical scenario, and what we want to achieve from the ventilation. Now we will move to a patient who we are practically ventilating in our neonatal ICU. So in this short video, I have explained the basic circuit and the basic parameters that are present in the ventilator. Any question till now? start a ventilation, we initially perform a circuit test. Then we will choose the child will be ventilated by a tube, and the size of tube will be 3. And then we select the weight of the child, that was 3 kg, and these are the initial ventilatory settings. So you can see that this neonate is on pressure control SIMV, and the ventilation is through tube. And the initial FiO2 that we selected was 100%, and now we are going to taper this FiO2. And inspiratory time was 0. It was started with 50 per minute, inspiratory time 18, and speed was 15, and slope is 0.05. So we can see on this graph that this is the graph that is showing basically because the child is irritable, so multiple peaks. But this graph will show the graph between the peak inspiratory pressure and expiratory pressure. So you can see that this is an alarm. That alarm that is showing that end tidal CO2 is low. So we'll go to the alarm. We will see the adjust this alarm settings. And the baby that is ventilated through a tube size of 3. So in this video you have seen the circuit of ventilator, the various parameters in the ventilator, and we have see unit which is on a ventilator, and the initial setting that we have chosen to ventilate a child with the congenital pneumonia. So any questions regarding this basic parameters and setting in the ventilator?
जी अगर किसी भी जी आवाज आ रही है, किसी भी पार्टिसिपेंट का कोई क्वेश्चन है तो वो ड्रॉप करे, अनम्यूट कर दे अपना माइक और क्वेश्चन करे, या टाइप करके कर ले किसी का. जी मैं से कंटिन्यू करें डॉक्टर जी, कोई क्वेश्चन कोई नहीं आया अभी तक.
चलिए ठीक है, आपने घबराना नहीं है. Now we will discuss the second part of this module, that is intubation and endotracheal tube selection in pediatric patients. So there are different sizes of ETT. Endotracheal tube may be uncuffed and may be cuffed. We usually use uncuffed endotracheal tube in neonate and infant, and the endotracheal tube size ranges from 2.5 to 7.5. And in neonate whose weight is less than 1 kg, the ideal endotracheal tube size is 2.5 millimeter. And if the weight of the child is from 1 kg to 2.5 kg, the endotracheal tube of 3 millimeter can be used. And a child whose weight is greater than 2.5, an endotracheal tube of 3.5 millimeter can be used. In a child who is above 1 year of age, the formula for calculating the size of endotracheal tube is age in years divided by 4 plus 4. For example, the age of the child is 2 years. 2 divided by 4 will be equal to 0.5 plus 4, then it is equal to 4.5. So for 2-year child, the ideal size for endotracheal tube is 4.5. There are two types of blade that can be used for intubation. One is Miller type blade and other is McIntosh. And in newborn, who are preterm, in newborn we can use Miller zero blade. So we use straight blade of zero size for the intubation of child up to 1 month, and after 1 month to 2 years we can use Miller 1 or Mac 1.5, Miller 1 or 1.5. And the depth of the insertion will be calculated by multiplying the size of the endotracheal tube with 3. So, you can see in this table that in a uh, neonate, the size of the endotracheal tube will be insertion will be 8 centimeters. For example, if the weight of the child is 1 kg and the tube size will be 2.5, and we will multiply the 2.5 with 3, then this will be up to 8. So we will insert a 2.5 kg endotracheal tube up to 8 centimeters. And these are the steps of intubation which all of you knows previously, that for intubation we will hold the laryngoscope in the left hand, then scissor the teeth open with right hand, we will place the blade in the right side of the mouth and swab the tongue to the left, then insert the blade deeper, lift it up away, manipulate the cricoid with the right hand and then pass the tube. So these are the vocal cords which should be visualized, and under vision we should pass endotracheal tube through these vocal cords and then secure the endotracheal tube. So thank you very much. Any questions?
जी तमाम पार्टिसिपेंट अपना माइक अनम्यूट करके क्वेश्चन कर सकते हैं. या मैसेज में भी टाइप करके आप दे सकते हैं चैट पे. अगर किसी का क्वेश्चन है वो रेज हैंड करें, मैं इधर से उसको अनम्यूट कर देता हूँ.
No questions?
नहीं सर, अभी तक किसी का कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं आया.
I think we should conclude if there is no questions.
सर अगर किसी ने कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछा तो मैं तो क्वेश्चन पूछ लूं. अच्छा सर, ये जो वेंट है हमारे पास ना, ये ड्रैगर C300 वेंट है. इसके अलावा जो एडवांस इससे भी वेंट मौजूद है ना, वो ड्रैगर C500 है. जो जहाँ से मैंने थोड़ा स्टडी किया था ना, इसमें कुछ जो है ना वो ऑप्शंस इस वेंट में जो है ना कम है एज कम्पेयर टू दूसरे वेंट पे. ये तो अभी जो जनरल मोड से वो हमने डिस्कस किया है ना, उसमें 2-3 ऑप्शंस बेहतर थी ना. उनमें एक ऑप्शन थी ATC की, ऑटोमेटिक ट्यूब कंपनसेशन की. इस वेंट में मुझे वो नहीं मिली. तो सर वो ऑप्शन जो ऑटोमेटिक ट्यूब कंपनसेशन की है ना, उसके अंदर वो कहते हैं कि जब पेशेंट जो है ना एक्सपायर कर रहा है अगेंस्ट द रेजिस्टेंस ऑफ ट्यूब, तो वेंट ऑटोमेटिकली वो उतना प्रेशर कैलकुलेट करके उसको असिस्ट कर देता है ताकि उसकी एक्सप्रेशन आसान हो जाए. तो ये ऑटोमेटिक ट्यूब कंपनसेशन वाली जो ऑप्शन है ना, ये वो एडवांस जो C500 वेंटिलेटर है उसमें अवेलेबल. इसके अलावा सर दूसरी चीज थी डायनामिक कंप्लायंस, सी डायनामिक. वो इस इवेंट में शो तो हो रही थी, लेकिन वो प्रॉपर तरीके से जो है ना वो उसका ना एक जो अमूमन जो C500 वेंटिलेटर है उसके अंदर प्रॉपर ना एक जैसे हमारे लंग्स होते हैं वैसे लंग्स बने होते हैं, और उनकी पेरिफ्री के अंदर वो शो काढ़ा होता है कि इस जो लंग्स है, जिस लंग्स को हम वेंटिलेट कर रहे हैं, इसकी कंप्लायंस कितनी है. और रेजिस्टेंट कितनी है। तो जितनी रेजिस्टेंट होती है वो उतना जो है ना वो अपना उस ग्राफ को जो है ना वो ठीक शो करता है कि ये जो लंग जिसको आप वेंटिलेट कर रहे हैं इसकी रेजिस्टेंस ज्यादा है और इसकी कंप्लायंस इतनी है। तो उस रेजिस्टेंस और कंप्लायंस को भी आप एडजस्ट कर सकते हैं।
You have rightly said this option of measurement of compliance is available in the other ventilator, Bella Vista. That one available at Iqbal Hospital, as well as we have two vents in Sardar Begum. So measurement of compliance is there in the Bella Vista, because that was, although that is an old ventilator, but that ventilator software was updated 2 years back. So due to that software update, this option of compliance measurement is there, available there in the Bella Vista. Secondly, one of the participants has also asked question about the endotracheal tube. She said, why not cuffed endotracheal tube? Why we are using uncuffed endotracheal tube? So would you like to respond to this question, or should I answer that?
No, आप ही कर दें।
So, what is the difference between cuffed and uncuffed endotracheal tube? Basically, if you use cuffed endotracheal tube, it will occupy more space in the airway. So it will contribute more resistance. So work of breathing will be a bit higher. And if you look at the airway size of children and especially infants is very small. And if you even a little bit compromise the airway further, it will significantly decrease the airway size, right? So a cuffed endotracheal tube will significantly increase the work of breathing, and that work of breathing has to be adjusted either in the ventilator settings in the form of increased pressure, or like that. Similarly, the problem with the uncuffed endotracheal tube is, the only problem with uncuffed endotracheal tube is it can dislodge, number one. Secondly, it can lead to leakage of air around that. So if we are using, now we have to decide which parameter is more important. Like if you are ventilating a small infant, we are not worried about securing endotracheal tube. We can secure endotracheal tube clearly, and we do not want an endotracheal tube that occupies larger space and compromise the airway further. So uncuffed endotracheal tube is preferred in small infants. In older children, we can use cuffed as well as uncuffed, but in that case, we need to adjust the pressures. So because we have to adjust leakage for uncuffed endotracheal tube. So that is the only difference. Otherwise, as far as the outcome is concerned, the outcome of ventilation for cuffed and uncuffed endotracheal tube is same. There is no difference.
Sir, I want to add that in some cases, they have mentioned that we can use this cuffed endotracheal tube in small infant if we are going to ventilate the child on high pressure. Then we can use, if there is some indication that we are going to ventilate the child on high pressure, then we can use cuffed endotracheal tube. And the other indication in which we can use this when we have risk of aspiration. So these are two factors which if we are considering, then we can use cuffed endotracheal tube in a baby.
Basically, when we use cuffed endotracheal tube, it will be more secure and it will not allow any leakage of air around the tube. This is the only advantage. But if the disadvantage is that it will tightly fix to the airways and may have subsequently problems like subglottic stenosis or some problem on the long-term basis as well as on the short-term basis. If you use a cuffed endotracheal tube, then probably it will thoroughly seal the airway. So you have to keep pressure lower. Like if you're using PIP, you have to use lower PIP because lower PIP will deliver more pressure because there will be no leakage. And if you're using uncuffed endotracheal tube, because there is leakage, so a higher pressure will not be harmful. So this is the thing that we need to be focused. Another important is the shape of the airway in small infant is conical. The shape of airway is different. So in children, it is in adults, the shape is more accommodative and it accepts a coughed endotracheal tube easily. But the shape of the airway is conical. So conical, it will be difficult to pass the coughed endotracheal tube in that. So they preferred uncoughed endotracheal tube in children. So these are the few reasons. However, this topic is also debatable. People are now using cuffed endotracheal tube because this is the tube dislodgement and tube issues are more with the uncuffed endotracheal tube. Another important I want to highlight here, a very important point, that always remember the size of the airway is very small in infants. Even small further reduction in the airway size, because this is exponential decrease in the size of the airway. Like if a 1 millimeter reduction in size will contribute significantly to decrease in the radius of the airways. So in adults, the radius of the airways is very high. So if there is a small reduction in the airway, it will not contribute to the high resistance. But in small infants, it may compromise the airways around 40%, 50%. So small secretions, small blockage, or anything that adds to the airways that will interfere with this airway resistance. Another important is when you are putting the child on CPAP or on spontaneous mode. On the spontaneous mode, when we are weaning the patient, like in CPAP, we are not delivering any pressure. Now the patient is breathing spontaneously. When patient is breathing spontaneously, then if it is cuffed endotracheal tube, then the airway size will be significantly reduced and it will contribute more resistance. So work of breathing will be automatically increased if you are using cuffed endotracheal tube, especially for spontaneously breathing patients. When you are not using PEP. I hope it's clear.
Sir, another thing that I want to discuss is about the graphs that are being displayed on the ventilator. Usually, sir, the graph starts from the peak level, and then the slope will, along with flow, will increase the pressure and with the pressure, and then the peak is maintained by inspiratory time and then expiration time. Sir, how will we assess that? How will we assess these graphs that are being displayed on the ventilator?
Actually, we can control now the flow of the gases during inspiratory, because the inspiration is an active process and expiration is a passive process. So the flow, like suppose your breath size is 1 second, like you are delivering one breath in 1 second. You have set a respiratory rate of 60, and in 1 second, one breath is going. So you set an inspiration time of 0.3 and expiration time of 0.7. So this is your respiratory cycle. So in 0.3 seconds, you have to give in the pressure mode. You have to give a pressure to delivery time is 0.3 seconds. So in this delivery time, the peak will be achieved. The whole of the inspiratory pressure will go up, but it will depends upon two factors. Number one, the amount of the gas flowing and the resistance to the airways. Like if the disease is such that the flow to the lungs is slow, then the whole of the tidal volume may not be delivered in that time. Like you have set a pressure of 20 and you expect that the 20 tidal volume should be delivered in this inspiratory time of 0.3 seconds. But due to high resistance and the disease there, that flow is not possible. Sometimes you have to increase the pressure and that peak will not be achieved, and before that peak, the pressure will go up to that and then stay there, and then expiration start. So that peak volume will not be achieved. Similarly, so you have to increase pressure to ensure that tidal volume is delivered into the lungs during inspiratory phase. This is one thing. Then the expiration, there are some diseases where you want this plateau pressure to stay for some time. Like if there is a problem with the gas exchange, like if pneumonia is there, the RDS is there, you don't want the air to come out quickly back. You want the air to stay there for a few seconds so that the exchange of the gases take place more efficiently. That is your plateau time. That is the time you can increase that time, you can decrease your time. But ventilator immediately does not start expiration. It takes few seconds. In all the cases, it takes few seconds to maintain that pressure. That is plateau pressure. But in the ventilator settings, you can increase that plateau pressure. You can change the shape of the graph. If you need more time for the gases to stay there, you can prolong it, and then you can ask the ventilator to start expiration. So the curve of this, it goes straight up and it can go straight down, or you can go up, you can maintain there and can make it a bit more cubical, so stay longer period of time to improve gas exchange and then allow exchange to expiration. So this is all depends upon the condition of the patient and the disease state. You can change this plateau phase.
जी सर, एक क्वेश्चन आया डॉक्टर आयशा का कि how can we know the ETT pause is to the proper depth?
Proper depth.
जी.
Okay. Proper. Very good question. What are the problems that are identified during intubation? Like you have intubated if you have intubated in the esophagus, then obviously the lungs will not inflate clinically. In our ventilator, we have ECTO, end-tidal CO2. So that ventilator, if that probe is connected, that will immediately show that the end-tidal ECO2 is coming or not. If it is not coming, the tube is not in the airways. But the second part of the question is, if it is in the airway, but it has gone to the main bronchus. If it has gone to the right main bronchus, then only one lung will be inflated, the other lung will be uninflated. So you can easily pick up by auscultation, but standard for this is to do chest X-ray. You have to do post-intubation chest X-ray. That is compulsory. At least for the first time, when we are intubating for the first time, you pass endotracheal tube, ensure the air entry is there, check for end-tidal PCO2. If it is coming, then the last step is must do portable chest X-ray in every case for first time, because that will show you the depth of endotracheal tube next time. So for one patient, you determine that point, and every time the tube will be passed according to that depth. So this is very important. So post-intubation X-ray is compulsory.
सर इसमें एक वेग फार्मूला भी है कि 1/3 आपका वो बाहर होना चाहिए, जितनी उसकी लेंथ है उसका 1/3 बाहर होना चाहिए, वो ऑप्टिमल पहुंच जाती है.
These are all for the initial guidance. These are all for the initial guidance. You can use these formulas for the initial intubation and initial placement, but these are not final, because the length of the airway, size of the airway is not related to the weight. It is related to the age, and it is variable. In even the same age group, it is variable. So these are just guidance. These are helpful for the initial intubation and initial placement, but we should not totally depend upon this. X-ray performance of chest X-ray is compulsory, because once you determine the position with X-ray, then you mark that point, and the tube may require change every day or every alternate day. Then every time you need not to have chest X-ray, so you just pass to that point, and that will be enough.
जी डॉक्टर तनवीर, आपका क्वेश्चन.
Assalamu alaikum sir and everybody. Sir, I would like to ask a question regarding the like gelatinous mucinous formation in the like COVID patients, and some if there will be any pulmonary hemorrhage, then how will proceed for this patient? Like they say in the COVID positive patient, when you are going to have a ventilation, there will be a gelatinous material that will block the ITT. How can we prevent and proceed for this ventilation? And for also the pulmonary hemorrhage.
So ventilatory strategy for COVID with pulmonary hemorrhage.
Yes, sir.
Strategy means settings
Mhm.
or approach.
The COVID is basically behaving like pneumonia. The COVID is causing fibrosis as well as inflammation in the lungs. So the COVID patients basically suffer from ARDS, and the problem is basically exchange of the gases. So we will, the other thing that you are asking is the formation of some gelatinous material secretions that are going to block the ETT. For that, if the secretions are formed, ETT is blocked, then obviously we will have to change the ETT. And for the ventilation, we will have to ensure the proper pressure, proper PEEP, and proper PEEP, and depend upon the सर इसमें जो है ना वो मेन यही है कि हम पहले देखेंगे एज क्या है और हम अचीव क्या करना चाहते हैं और उसकी एबीजीज कैसी हैं। अगर तो आपका जो कोविड का पेशेंट है वो टाइप 2 रेस्पिरेटरी फेलियर में है, गैसेस का एक्सचेंज नहीं हो रहा, तो ऑब्वियसली हमारा जो टारगेट होगा वो PCO2 वॉश आउट करवाना होगा और गैसेस के एक्सचेंज को बेहतर करना होगा। इसमें जो प्रिंसिपल होगा बेसिकली वो सेम होगा कि हम गैस एक्सचेंज को बेहतर करने के लिए क्या कर सकते हैं। जैसे कि सर ने बताया कि गैस एक्सचेंज को बेहतर करने के लिए हम इंस्पायरेटरी टाइम को इंक्रीज कर सकते हैं, FiO2 को इंक्रीज कर सकते हैं, और अगर प्रेशर सपोर्ट पे है तो प्रेशर को बढ़ा सकते हैं, और अगर वॉल्यूम मोड पे है तो वॉल्यूम को इंक्रीज कर सकते हैं। ठीक है, और अगर PCO2 रिटेन हो रही है तो PCO2 को वॉश आउट करवाने के लिए रेस्पिरेटरी रेट को हम इंक्रीज कर सकते हैं ताकि PCO2 वॉश आउट हो।
इसमें डॉक्टर तनवीर का एक और कंसर्न है कि पल्मोनरी हेमरेज अगर है,
जी सर,
अगर पल्मोनरी हेमरेज है तो ये स्ट्रेटेजी बिल्कुल ठीक है कि ARDS में बेसिक प्रॉब्लम जो है वो दैट इज ऑफ ऑक्सीजनेशन, प्राइमरीली दिस इज ऑक्सीजनेशन प्रॉब्लम। PCO2 is there, problem of PCO2 is there, but primarily this is hypoxia. So to improve hypoxia, there we have two parameters. One is FiO2 and other is mean airway pressure. FiO2 just increase FiO2 100% straightforward and in ARDS. And for the mean airway pressure, now you go step by step. The first thing in the mean airway pressure is if you are using pressure mode, as Dr. Junaid said, you go to the maximum pressure, or if you are using volume mode, you can go to the maximum volume that is permissible for this patient. Number one. If still the purpose is not served, the next is you can increase PEEP. Increase PEEP to 5, 6. That will also increase oxygenation. If that PEEP is not helpful, then you can increase tidal volume. Inspiratory time. Because how inspiratory time will help? If you allow more inspiratory time, then the inspiration is prolonged, and the peak after achieving pressure peak in the airway, it will stay for longer period of time there, and exchange of gases will take place more efficiently, right? But if the purpose is not served with this, then there is associated pulmonary hemorrhage. Now, pulmonary hemorrhage will not take place in the whole lung. The pulmonary hemorrhage depends upon whether this is in the one segment of the lung or one lobe of the lung, or if the whole of the lung has pulmonary hemorrhage, that is diffuse pulmonary hemorrhage, then probably ventilation will not help. Then you have to go for high frequency ventilation or ECMO. But if a part of the lung is in hemorrhage, like right lobe is in hemorrhage or left lobe has pulmonary hemorrhage, there is some segment of the lung has hyperventilation, some segment has pulmonary hemorrhage, then we can make use of the rest of the part of the lung by increasing the rate. In conventional ventilation, we can go to the maximum rate. In infants, we can go up to 70. and in older children, we can go up to the maximum permissible rate. So if the maximum rate and other maximum settings are not working, then the option for high frequency ventilation or ECMO is.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
सर इसमें एक और कंसर्न है, अगर वो उसका इन्फ्लेमेशन चल रही है और म्यूकस प्लग ब्लॉक करी जा रहा है ईटीटी, तो उसके लिए सक्शनिंग करेंगे बस, या कोई और भी अप्रोच हो सकती है? इन्फ्लेमेटरी फ्लूइड आपको ब्लॉक करी जा रहा है बार
Apart from ventilation, the management of pulmonary hemorrhage according to the standard management protocol will continue. That we will try to control. We will do interventions to stop that bleeding. We will increase airway pressures and many other things to bend that hemorrhage that is taking place. If there is coagulopathy, if there is DIC, obviously we will try to manage according to the principles of the medicine. So that is separate. We are just focusing how the ventilatory strategy will be helpful. So what are the ventilatory strategies in this case? Otherwise, the ventilatory strategies are along with the other supportive and specific management. So we will identify why the child is having bleeding and how severe it is, how we have to control bleeding, what is the cause of bleeding. If it is coagulopathy, patient needs fresh frozen plasma, patient needs vitamin K, or patient needs management of DIC or whatever.
The thing is this, when the gelatinous material is there, and then how can ETT in the working position? Like we have to change ETT like after 20 minutes, after 30 minutes. How can we prevent this when there is a gelatinous material inside the lung?
There are many conditions apart from COVID. There are many conditions in which there are frequent secretions and issues of tube blockage are there. So we have to do frequent suction and maintain the patency of the tube. We cannot prevent the tube occlusion of the tube, because if the secretions are thick and gelatinous, if the thick secretions are sticky, obviously they will interfere with the tube patency. So we have to do repeated suction, maintain the patency of the airway, and if by suction and these maneuvers the tube cannot be maintained, then you have to obviously you have to replace the tube. You may need to replace tube as frequently as needed. So this the care of the tube we will be discussing in the next segment. In the next module is the care of the endotracheal tube and how the nursing care is important. So this is a part of nursing care, how to keep the tube patent. So nurse will be there. Ideally, for one patient on ventilator, there should be one nurse who will be responsible for ensuring the patency of the tube and ensuring and responding to all the alarms and attending to all the things. So patency of tube is basic. So if you have a problem with the tube, you cannot ventilate. You cannot acquire with whatever pressure. If the tube is blocked, with whatever pressure it is, you will not get tidal volume. This is part of nursing care, Dr. Tanveer.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
जी सर, अभी मजीद कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है किसी का, तो कंक्लूड करें इसे सर।
ठीक है, मेरा ख्याल है कि डॉक्टर जुनैद want to say anything or just conclude?
नहीं सर, बस आप कर दीजिए।
Okay. So I think I am happy that this session is also very much well conducted and well prepared, and it has focused on the practical aspects of the ventilation. Although these are still basic things that we are discussing, but some people are not aware of these things, and for some people this is just a revision. So but the ventilation is something which needs to be revised, and we must be in touch with this ventilation, because otherwise we will forget. And if you do not practice it routinely, then you get insensitized and insensitive about the alarms, insensitive about the things. So gradually you do ventilation that is insufficient and inadequate. So we must be in touch, and most important part of this today's session was a very good discussion. Some very important points came to our focus, and Dr. Junaid has handled all the questions very well. And I hope, because almost the next basic lecture is left, and after that we will be having a case-based discussion. Like we will take one case in one session, and we'll discuss the complete ventilation about that case. So I think after the next case, we will have cases one by one, like diseases which we see in pediatrics, like pneumonias, like pulmonary hemorrhage, like ARDS, RDS. So one by one, we will be discussing one or two diseases in each session, and we will conduct the sessions in this way. But before that, I request all the participants, if they have any queries, if they have any point in discussion, or if they have any difficulty, they must come up with the questions or discussion, either calling me, Dr. Junaid, or Dr. Samina. Even Dr. Taiba is also on board. So we are all there to help, so that this session ultimately lead to a more purposeful practical session. So with that, I thank you all the participants, and I hope the next time the active participation will be much more. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Nadia. So there is a compliment for Dr. Junaid, not a question.
जी डॉक्टर जुनैद, बहुत शुक्रिया आपका, थैंक यू सो मच. और सर आपका भी थैंक यू. सर आपके लिए भी आ गया.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Okay, Allah Hafiz.
थैंक यू सर, और थैंक यू डॉक्टर जुनैद. अभी इसको कंक्लूड करते हैं, इंशाल्लाह नेक्स्ट टाइम फिर दोबारा मुलाकात होती है.
Okay, Allah Hafiz.